Okay guys, so this is just a kind of a spur of the moment impromptu video where I'm going to go over, I guess, the two different kinds of bird's nests that you can get when using a bait caster. And I say there's two different kinds because you get these bird's nests pretty much two different ways. Now I have the perfect reel chosen for this demonstration, and that is going to be the new Abu Garcia Black Max 4 or Max X. And this is a perfect reel to do this video with because of its huge popularity. Now, before we begin, I guess I'm going to have to quickly go over the mechanisms on a bait caster that are there to help you prevent bird's nests. Now, every modern bait caster has at least two of these mechanisms, and the first or main mechanism, I'm going to call it the main brake, and that's usually always located on the palm side plate of the reel. And with the majority of the world's bait casters today, this main brake is a magnetic system that you can control how strong the magnetism is with an external dial like this one. Now, there are some reels out there that have three mechanisms to help control the spool, but the majority of them only have two. And the second mechanism is going to be on the other side of the reel right here, and this is often called the spool tension knob or cast control cap. Now, in case you didn't know, with a bait cast reel, the only way line can come out and be dispensed is if the spool is turning and releasing line. And what causes a bird's nest is when the spool is spinning and releasing line faster than your bait flying through the air. Now, in my opinion, there's really only two types of bird's nests, and I'm going to call them the backlash and the overrun. And we're going to deal with the backlash first, because that's the easiest one to solve. Actually, they're both easy, but the backlash is usually user error. Okay, so let's deal with the backlash first. Now, I'm gonna make a cast. Okay, so there's a backlash, and what I'm gonna do is I'm going to replay that in slow motion, and I'm going to point some things out. Now, during the entirety of the cast, you can see that the spool was spinning perfectly. There was no lines or fluff ups or anything like that, but the spool blew up and got a bird's nest once the lure hit the water. And that was because the spool was still spinning even though the lure hit the water and stopped. So once again, the spool was dispensing line even though the lure hit the water and stopped. So let's do one more. All right, so generally these backlashes are not too bad. They can be bad, but generally, it just takes a couple of moments to pull the bird's nest out or the backlash and you're ready to go. Okay, so how do you stop a backlash? Well, it's pretty simple. Now, the traditional way is to, of course, stop the spool with your thumb once the lure hits the water, like this. Okay, that's how most people are taught to use a bait caster, and that's actually what I recommend. Okay, so I'm gonna show you guys a slow-mo of me stopping the spool once the lure hits the water, and of course preventing a backlash. Okay, so what if for some reason you just can't be bothered to stop the spool with your thumb? Whether you're too lazy or you're just not that accurate with your timing, or whatever reason. The best way to fix the backlash is to take your spool tension or cast control cap and tighten it up probably by like, what, half a turn? Now let's see if that solves the problem. And there we go. I didn't have to use the thumb at all during the entire cast. And I've shown this in a video I did on, how to cast thumb free a few years ago. but let's do one more. Okay, so that's how you fix a backlash. You either use your thumb to stop the spool, or you tighten up the spool tension or cast control cap enough to provide enough tension to stop the spool on its own once the lure hits the water. That's simple. Okay, now let's get on to the overrun. Okay, so let me show you what I call an overrun. All right, so hopefully you saw that. And you'll notice this is a lot worse than the backlash. And this is probably what turns people off the most on using bait casters. Because some of these bird's nests can be so bad that you can't pick them out. And you gotta cut all the line out, and you've wasted a lot of money, especially if you're using expensive fluorocarbon. I've learned that quite a bit in my years of using the bait caster, but I'm gonna show you guys in slow motion again what happened. So basically, during the middle of the cast, that's when the spool blew up before the lure even hit the water. And in fact, it caused the lure to pretty much almost stop midair and fall straight down into the water. Now, I would do another one for you guys and demonstrate, but I don't want to risk blowing this spool up so bad that I can't pick it out, and I'm gonna have to end this video. But now, let's get to how we fix the overrun. Now, the spool tension was set to where I don't have to stop the spool with my thumb once the lure hits the water, so pretty tight. But as you can see, we still got a bird's nest. So this is where the main brake comes in. Now, off camera, I turned the main brake down, I can't remember, maybe 3 or 4 clicks, just so I can get the overrun to show you guys. But that's how you solve the problem. If you're getting overruns, which are bird's nests that happen in the middle of the cast, all you have to do is turn up your main brake. And we're gonna play it safe and turn it up 4 clicks. And of course, it's gonna depend on the situation, and I'm using 4 clicks just for the purpose of this video. But let's see if that solved it. All right, so it solved it for the most part. Now, maybe you guys saw 1 or 2 loops at the beginning of the cast, which for brake systems like this, which are the MagTrack style systems, that's actually pretty normal. If you want to reduce those loops or eliminate them, of course, you can turn the brakes up a couple of more clicks. And let's see if that solved it. Yep, it sure did. Now, of course, by turning up the main brake and then tightening the spool tension, your casting performance will suffer. Not by a lot, and of course it depends on the brake system, but if you're trying to reach a spot out in the middle of a lake or a river, turning up the main brake and tightening up the spool tension more than likely will reduce your cast distance. But we'll do one more cast. And that's it. That's pretty much it. Very simple. Your spool is going to bird's nest either 1 or 2 ways. You didn't have the main brake turned up high enough to control the spool during the initial part of the cast, so it spun so fast and it was letting out line faster than the lure was flying through the air. But you quickly solve it by just turning up the main brake a couple of clicks. Or if you have the main brake set perfectly, but the lure hits the water and the spool blows up and gives you a bird's nest, then you either use your thumb or tighten up the spool tension. And it's just that simple. So hopefully this is going to help out anyone who is intimidated or discouraged by using bait casters, and you really don't even know what these mechanisms or dials are there for. But trust me, I've said it before, Dumber people than you have mastered baitcasters, so you can too. All right, guys, thanks a lot.